Hey there. Hello. How do you do? My name is Harry Wetzel. Thank you for coming. It's the 80s, darling. Yes. It is January 1986. Yes. I am in the thick of rehearsal for Greater Tuna, which will be opening soon. Yes. And I'm living at the Peanut Butter Building. Now I'm done with my stint at the Leland House, and now I'm living finally in the Peanut Butter Building once and for all. It's fantastic to live right across the street from the Attic Theater. Yes, and the Attic Theater is right across the street from the Fisher Theater and the Fisher Building. Yes, which means that I'm actually kitty corner from the Fisher Building, and it was so convenient that we were all right next to each other like that. The Golden Tower of the Fisher Building, from whence my lifelong friend, Patrick Cardinal McElroy, was the host of Night Flight 760 for a number of years. And every now and then, he'd be up there in the Golden Tower of the Fisher Building on the 22nd floor, and he would invite some of us, myself and Badger and Cabbage Boy and Iguana and Corn Lad, or any combination thereof, and he would invite us up to the studio, and we'd be in on it we'd have to be real quiet, of course, when he spoke on the air. But then he actually let us pick out some music from the WJR library of records. Yes, it was a room with shelves and shelves of stacks and rows of records and records. Yes. And it was absolutely phenomenal. You could find just about anything you wanted. But guess what? You couldn't play just about anything you wanted. No, it was pretty much family friendly, rated G program. So we could play anything easy listening, we could play, Peggy Lee or Ella Fitzgerald, all we wanted, but no rock and roll, please, or no jazz that's too obtuse. You can play Errol Garner, sure, but no Ozzy Osbourne, no Iggy Pop, no Frank Zappa. We were fine with that. We weren't insensitive, and so we would pick out some fantastic Ella, and we'd be part of the evening's entertainment. Yes, yes. So it was fantastic to be living in the Peanut Butter Building, in a building, in a little apartment right across the street from the theater. It was so convenient. And I'd just walk across the street to go to work, right? And I was living in a place that the theater was footing the bill. Oh, it was magnificent. So, I mean, were you ever at work? And you're at work now and you realize, oh, I left this such and such of a thing at home. Well, when work is right across the street, you say, excuse me. And you dash out the door, run across the street, go up to your apartment, get the book or the this or the that you had forgotten, and you dash back out and you're back and you're like, hi, I'm back, and here's the thing. Right. It was so fantastic. Living there was peaceful. It was very nice. My roommate was my scene partner, Neil, and he was an excellent and quiet roommate, just like I was. I was an excellent and quiet roommate. We didn't give each other any hassles and stuff. We washed our own dishes, and we got along in perfect harmony. It was so nice. We'd go back and forth to the theater, and we'd be in rehearsal, and everything would always be hunky dory. Yes. Oh, but it was cold in that place. You could hear the wind rattle the shaky window panes. Oh, yes. The wind literally rattled, and the window panes were literally shaky. So I got some plastic. I got some clear plastic, and I taped and thumbtacked it up all the way around the windows for insulation, and they puffed up like the sails on a schooner. Right. the wind was coming that much that they just filled a puff, whoomp, as soon as you sealed that thing on the last edge. Whoomp. Well, it was January in Michigan. What did anyone expect? I know. So now we're in Tech Week for Greater Tuna. And it's all about the costumes now. The actors are in fine shape on all their characterizations, etc., etc., etc. And the costumes are fantastic, elaborate, and beautiful. But we've got to make those changes go lightning fast, or the show is draggy and droopy. And sometimes it would happen that I'd be on stage and Neil would be backstage turning into Pearl Buemiller, and there's just a little bit of lag time before he eventually comes out. Or the same thing, Neil's on stage alone and I'm backstage, and George and Kathy, our costume changers, our lifelines, would be backstage frantically trying to put clothing on me here and there, and then you rush out. Well, so we had one rehearsal where we focused on only the changes. And we do the change again and again and again, and we're getting ideas. We're getting little tips. We're picking up tips that are teaching ourselves and learning how to make these costumes. Some clothing was underdressed. You just take off a thing, and there'd be your next shirt. Some of the clothing was padded. I played a couple of different women, and I had padded bosoms and the like, and you couldn't underdress that. No. And we would figure out better and better and closer, and eventually some of these costume changes got to be so smooth, with lightning precision and balletic grace. Yes. We were in preview eventually, and when those costume changes went right, the audience gasped, because I'd walk off stage, and 1 second later, or so they thought, I came back out as somebody else. It must have been so cool to see that play. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We're still only in Tech Week, and we're making the costumes work, and we finally did. We think now we're ready to open. Oh, and we made sure that Kathy and George, our costumiers, got their own bow. They would come out at the show's over, and there's the applause and stuff. It's an empty stage, and they would each come out, these two strange people. But they're holding costume pieces. They're holding a wig and a great big pair of pants that was Charlene Buemiller's, or or Vera Karp's dress, or something like that. So the audience had a lag moment before they realized these are the guys who were helping all that stuff. Oh, and they got a huge roar. It was fantastic. Yes, well, that was preview week. We had a week of previews. It is the only way to fly, because you're open, you're not open. You're opened, and we got an audience so they can react and they can help us hone our timing and all that stuff, but it's not open yet. And then it opens. Crashing success. Here, I gotta have it was a crashing success. It was. We immediately got great reviews. People adored it. It was a funny show, and we felt like we were on top of the world. For the next month and a half, Neil and I felt like we were a couple of rock stars. We were in a hit show. We were the hit show. Oh, well, we gave our credit where credit is due to the costumers, but we were the hit show, and we felt like it was fantastic. People would even ask me for my autograph. Now, I'm on the other side of that little equation. Now, here's the thing. It's early enough in my career that I'm not bothered by it. I'm kind of flattered by it. Now, I understand that later on, if it got to be a constant, that wouldn't be as much fun. However, if you are fan enough of me to ask for my autograph, then I am your fan too. Anyhow, so the show goes on, and Neil and I even walked kitty corner. It was so cosmopolitan, across the street to the Golden Tower of the Fisher Building, because we were being interviewed on the radio by J.P. McCarthy, or one of his buddies. I'm not exactly sure. It's a blur. However, we went on the air in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, and we hawked the Greater Tuna show over at the Attic. And I got to tell you, that Neil was lightning quick throughout that interview. I had to take a back seat to that dude because he was on fire. And, I'm kind of a moron sometimes, so I didn't have any quick responses. I still cringe when I think of that particular interview. Anyhow, so many people came to see the show. So many people from the old days, uh, people from Greenfield Village and people from University of Detroit, people from Lafayette Street came. Tom and Marilyn DePietro came. And friends of the family, the Christensens came, Chris and Mike Christensen. Yes. And Mrs. Christensen brought me some homemade almond brittle. Oh, I'll never forget that. And they enjoyed the show. Everybody enjoyed the show who came out to see it. The people from Lafayette, Lori and Nancy Bruin came out to see it. The Funkies came out to see it. Corrine and Mary Ellen and Ed and Amber. Ed and Amber Funky came to see it. And it was, as I say, a crashing success. My college professors came to see it. David, always, of course, a stern critic of mine, actually said something nice about my performance. So I took that as a huge win. Arthur, the other professor, he loved goofy comedy like this, so it was right up his alley. He was very complimentary. That was fun. That was easy. And all right, so Gregos from Greenfield Village came. I had worked with him building sets shoulder to shoulder for years over at Greenfield Village in the old days, right? And he came to see the show. He loved it, and he told me that they were producing George Washington Slept Here, a 1940 comedy by George S. Kaufman, one of my favorite playwrights, of course. And they were producing that. And did I want to come in and work and build the set? Hooray! A free job here in town. Look, Greater Tuna's up and running. My days are open. I can go work at Greenfield Village, build a set, get paid. Then on the weekend, the nights and weekends, I can go over to the Attic Theater. I didn't have a car those days, so Gregos came by and picked me up at the Peanut Butter Building and then drove me into Dearborn. Right. I was sort of on his way because he lived up in the one of the northern suburbs, so he just sort of slooped down. Anyhow, that was fantastic. I got to build George Washington Slept Here, so I'm working, and I was too busy to even be depressed these days. Right. I was still real still a real, thing. Even though there's all this success going on, I was still, miserable down in my heart, and I didn't have time to think about that or invest in it, during the run of Greater Tuna. So that's fantastic. Things were going great guns. I'm working over at Greenfield Village, and we're building the next set. I was there, and the run of the show went on. We got another great review and another great review. Fantastic. I love working with Gregor. She is a very witty individual, and we would always play word games with each other while we were building sets. And one of the fun word games that we had, it would be to just make the most, it was an association, a reference game, but come up with the most obscure, tangential association that we could. I mean, it was a couple of nerds breaking themselves up over George Bernard Shaw jokes or Sergei Prokofiev jokes and finding it to be hilarious. You totally had to be there, but we did have so much fun. I remember one day we're standing on stage building the set, and the news came on that the Challenger had just exploded. Seconds after takeoff, it exploded. I remember Gregos had a piece of wood in his hand. He just dropped it. We stood there stunned. Yeah, it was January 28th, 1986. Well, we continued building the set. I continued working at Greater Tuna. Then there was an audition for an upcoming show at the Attic Theater, and it was for a serious drama. I really wanted that show. I wanted to get that gig back to back with after Greater Tuna and show that not only could I be all funny and stuff, I could be all serious and stuff too. I really, really wanted to get that show. I'll have to tell you about all that business later on, won't I? Thank you for coming on this journey with me. I look forward to talking to you next time. Yes.